No elephants, Your Grace.
That's disappointing.
Welcome back, everybody. Today we're talking about Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 1. The episode, simply titled Winterfell, is directed by David Nutter. David has directed 7 episodes at this point. In fact, half of this season will be directed by him to add to that count. The episode overall was nice. It felt like a solid start to the final season, and it had many of the feel-good reunion moments all crammed together to save the precious time that we do have. I felt that a few points were rushed due to time, and that perhaps it created some interesting challenges for the writers, but overall, I cried 3 times in a room full of people, and would do it again. The first thing that I'd like to discuss comes before the camera ever starts rolling on our fabled heroes and villains. That, of course, is the new and improved title sequence. Of course, now that all the beautifully flawed heroes have assembled in proximity to each other, we only have 4 locations to show. The Wall, Last Hearth, Winterfell, King's Landing. The Wall is up first, and of course it exists simply to remind the viewer that the International Man of Mystery has just blown up the Wall, and now invades the South. Interviews with the creators of this title sequence detail how the tile overturn trick to show the advancing of the Night King's army was actually something that they thought of in Season 1, but were never able to use it. This seems like an interesting thing to note, so I wonder if every episode we won't see this progress. For instance, if they lose the Battle of Winterfell, the next title updates to show the blue tiles cascading all the way down to King's Landing. The next important image shows 4 dragons and a comet. The comet, of course, dates back to Season 2. The comet clearly relates to the dragons, or perhaps magic as a whole returning to the land, and that's kind of been the theme throughout this series. The image shows 4 dragons, which is odd because only 3 exist in real life, but not really because a larger dragon probably just symbolizes the mother of dragons, Dany. Something I feel that people keep missing when they discuss this shot is that the bottom of the rotating band shows something interesting. It shows the front here with a fully figured livestock path, then ever so slightly you can make out a tiny flame coming from the bottom dragon, then all of the cattle being consumed and nothing left behind. Well, why is that important? So the showrunners aren't trying to tell us that dragons eat a lot. We know that dragons eat a lot. The showrunners are building this idea that dragons consume everything in their way, regardless, leaving a path of death and destruction, nothingness. I mean, Dany even says herself,
What do dragons eat, anyway?
Whatever they want.
Some serious moves happen in this episode, which I think exists to either mislead the audience or building Dany as the true villain of the series. Perhaps building the tension in which the audience understands that this isn't simply a tale versus good and evil. That Dany believes that she is meant to rule and will do everything in her power to get her there, no matter how many die. I believe that if they take this route, making Dany the morally corrupt bad guy who ultimately was consumed by her quest for power, she will soon kill someone that Jon thinks that she shouldn't, someone that he loves dearly. Well, they quite literally just showed Sam committing treason, and Sam isn't a mutual third party. Dany could take this news as betrayal, an unbelievable evidence on script that he could have forged just to get Jon into power. This political tension exists whether we want it to or not, so just be mindful. If Dany keeps making questionable choices at the cost of Jon's loved ones, we will see that morally gray antagonist appear. But before I get too carried away, let's talk about the very start of the episode. It was filled with callbacks, to the very first episode, and it was beautiful. The music which played for the very first time we ever laid eyes on Winterfell plays now. A young boy climbs anything he can to get better looks at legends his parents tell him about before bed, all the way down to Jaime arriving at Winterfell. Lots of feel-good reunions throughout the first episode, all of these that I liked. The only one which I hoped would have been different for whatever reason is the reunion between the Hound and Arya. I attribute this to my own understanding of their individual stories from the outside. Just be best friends already and kill people, please. But alas, the Hound calling the young Stark a bitch is probably the most endearing thing he would have said there. After all, the Hound is figuratively a dog, so perhaps him calling Arya a bitch was literally just him calling her a female dog, relating her resilience to his own. Let's talk about the politics. As the bane of everyone's existence IRL, so does it come off as nonsense in the show. Now, I fully agree that this is expected, and we should expect this more this episode, early episodes, later episodes. every single person has been raised with explicit norms that they must follow and understand the things expected of them. To disregard that because the audience knows that it's utter bollocks wouldn't serve justice to the story. Everyone stands on principle for a reason. They've been raised like that. Their parents have been raised like that. I think we're seeing a condensed version of this, and that the showrunners even go so far as to tell us right away when Bran wargs into every audience member during this scene and shouts,
"We don't have time for all this."
So the showrunners know, and I think that they're working on it. And we'll see a condensed version of the politics, so I don't expect it for too much longer, but it does exist, and it should. This next scene can quickly be summed up with the clip setting the tension in the room.
"We need more horses and wagons, if it please, my lady, and my lord, and my queen. Sorry."
The northern families are confused, unaccepting even, that their elected king has thrown away his crown to a silver-haired dragon rider that they don't know.
"You left Winterfell a king and came back a bitch?" "I'm not sure what you are now."
This is another reoccurring theme throughout the episode as it builds the reason that Dany possibly does something really bad soon, because she murdered Tarlys for not bending the knee. And the North can be much more stubborn by, well, everyone who describes what the North is like. If Dany believes that it's in her best interest to enforce her reign using fear over these people like she has elsewhere, we're going to see Jon have to make some really hard decisions about this alliance. And that goes for all of Dany's crew who just joined and are trying to make her a better leader, most importantly Tyrion. However, I really want to stress this. This early tension could be a ploy to develop internal conflict so that the final season doesn't seem as straightforward as the living good guys versus the undead bad guys, which it very well could be. No preference either way. If Dany becomes more Mad Kingish, cool. If Jon and Dany get married and win or lose against everyone else, cool. That being said, my personal hope is that Jon Snow comes out alive with or without Dany and becomes king, then destroys the Iron Throne to break the wheel, deploying a new form of government which better serves the people instead of the families in charge. Next point I want to discuss, and I'm skipping things here, nothing that I feel needs to be explained. You're all brilliant analysts with deductive reasoning. However, I want to explain the moment between Arya and Jon. This is a nice reunion, but it still furthers that building of tension.
I'm a family too.
Don't forget that.
I loved this scene. I teared up on first watch, but the thing I want to highlight is the bond between them. Jon hasn't seen Arya since season 1, and she has literally murdered people, but he still sees her as the same little sister that he must protect. He underestimates her, and that's a scary thing to do with women in this series. I hope that they go for more of a she turns into a monster on the battlefield with this new weapon she has, and he's like, oh my god, wow, little sister, you really do know how to use that thing. Instead of something more polarizing, like him learning of her dark past when she masks as someone and tests Jon's loyalty. Interesting concept, and it's a bigger thing if Jon's true identity is revealed to everybody. We're going to see some tension and possibly a grandiose speech like the one that Jon gave Theon last season about being the man that I am because of who raised me, not because of who created me. Alright, next, let's talk about Euron Greyjoy. Yara is rescued. Thank God this didn't take more than one episode. It felt rushed, and honestly, thank you. I didn't want to see many scenes of this storyline that they started way too far for me to invest in. I love the character, all of these characters, but I'm much happier that Theon is now going to fight with the Starks in his true home. Okay, what was I talking about? Euron. So, interesting character. I feel like this idea that he just wanted to fuck the queen and then dip out if things go south sounds pretty interesting, makes me believe that things will go south and he'll flee like a coward and he'll find that the Iron Islands are now overtaken by Yara. Cersei had an interesting take on a few things in this episode. First, she's excited that actual undead creatures have broken through the giant magical wall that's protected them for years, because it means that her enemies either die or they win and then have a tattered army to defend against. I mean, if they lose Winterfell, which no doubt in my mind happens, she's fucked herself big time. I mean, even if the northern armies are basically zero, she now has to fight that same force equal, plus what the Night King has brought after he reanimates everybody. Then we have this scene with her and Euron.
You want a whore, buy one. You want a queen, earn her.
But then she immediately gives in and fucks Euron. Some mixed reactions to this, but overall, she is really, really lonely now. She displays this ruthless ruler in front of everyone, but is still human. That moment that she turns and considers it, two things happen. I believe that she genuinely wants to feel some form of companionship, but she also needs to now mask the fact that she's pregnant with her brother's baby. Last season, she was ready to just say, forget the haters, and, we have this baby, we have this baby. But now that Jaime left her, an incestuous baby with the traitor is the last thing that she wants. So Euron is a nice facade sperm donor. However, consider this. The relationship between Tyrion and Cersei's children has always been an interesting dynamic. I feel like there's more here, more that Tyrion's letting on. I want to highlight this because dwarfism runs in the family. So imagine, because of this incest baby, and because so many other of their incest babies have come out as star children with otherwise nothing wrong with them, that this one comes out as a dwarf, and Cersei views it as lesser. Perhaps Tyrion offers to save the baby from some tragic fate even. I don't know. Would be an interesting dynamic at play with Tyrion, but something is off, and I can't quite place it. He knows something more than we know. Cersei then commands Bronn to go kill her brothers with the crossbow that Tyrion killed their father with. Poetic, but probably foolish. It's a big point of debate if this is just her being ignorant to their relationship, or potentially the showrunners doing something so unbelievable that of course it will happen. Everyone thinks that he won't kill them. I think that he will not kill them either, but it's that exact comfort that I question the reality of that statement. Perhaps wagons full of gold is the price that he needs. Perhaps Tyrion holds his promise and they double the amount in exchange for not killing them. Perhaps, as Bronn so proudly proclaimed,
I am the only man you ever met who shot a dragon.
Did you?
Nearly killed it.
That's brave.
as the only person who shot at a dragon before, his skills will come in handy now that they need to fight an undead dragon. Perhaps the weapon that Arya commands Gendry to build is actually just a recallable bolt for a scorpion we haven't seen up north yet. Varys delivers an interesting line that furthers the idea of tension rising. However, they do propose a marriage, and I hope that this happens. It would be very cool to see a wedding that doesn't end in murder, although now that I say that, perhaps I've just fucked everything up. Sorry guys, I think I just jinxed us. No happiness. Speaking of foreshadowing deaths,
We could stay 1,000 years. No one would find us.
this, of course, is a callback to the wildling that stole our man's V-card. Let's talk about the weapon. I've seen a fair share of awesome mock-ups comparing it to spears and double-edged maces or detachable daggers. Someone suggested it could be a blow dart gun with dragonglass darts. I don't think it will be that. However, I want to say that, firstly, you're a genius, whoever thought of that, but secondly, that it is a great idea overall. It would be the perfect addition to her ninja arsenal. More likely, this is just a spear with a detachable head, meaning that you could stab an enemy while you continue riding or running and pull it back through the center with a rope laced through the middle. That too is complete speculation, but I think it would be a cool fantasy weapon to see Arya run through Whites with. What I can tell you is that the arrow pointing toward the weapon shows that it's something that you can load into this thing. So perhaps some smaller crossbow bolt for killing the Night King's dragon. Who really knows at this point the exact amount of dragonglass that it takes to kill that thing? The magic of the land could dictate that, if he lands on a tiny sliver, probably not, but if he lands on a tiny sliver and cuts his foot, that he would crumble to dust. Or, on the other end of that spectrum, a huge scorpion bolt like Cersei has going through the heart. These rules haven't been defined yet for the undead beast, and, looking through previous footage, it's hard to tell exactly how much dragonglass you need to kill a white with. It's fun to theorycraft, but let's move on. So next we come to the Samwell Tarly scene, which of course leads to the conversation between Jon and Sam in the crypts, which I talked about briefly earlier. The purpose of this interaction beforehand was to continue this tension build-up, showing that the choices Dany has made have been conflicted at best. I really thought that Sam would have smiled when he found out his abusive dad died. I don't know. His brother I can understand. She didn't need to do that. Maybe I just wanted to see someone laugh at his death, and that would have been out of character. I retract my complaint. The scene between him and Jon was well delivered by both of these actors. It of course reveals that he is the rightful king, and more or less just serves as the show building up that tension. Next we come to Last Hearth. Well, we get this comedy gold moment.
Stay back, he's got blue eyes!
I've always had blue eyes!
But the important thing is the fire spiral. This young lad is Ned Umber.
Hurry back to Last Hearth and bring your people here.
Lots of people have compared this symbol to the Targaryen seal. I don't know if it really works. For one, I think that people are counting the appendages wrong. Even if it was meant to look similar, it doesn't work. I mean, I guess it does kind of look similar, but the numbers are off. This, of course, is the same pattern at the Weirwood Tree where the Night King was created. It's some sort of magic seal that probably is the true story going on here. I think that maybe Bran and the Night King are the only important story pieces left, that we're just seeing this play out through the position of peons arguing over nonsense. Bran's character arc will be related to the Night King's character arc in some kind of way. I do want to note that the comet that is said to have brought magic back to the land also happened in the same time frame that the Night King finally pushes south and the Dragon Queen comes to existence. After all, there's a reason that this comet is being shown to us in the beginning. I mean, the Night King had exactly 3 spears for when Dany attacked. Maybe he just is the great Thanos trying to return balance to the world and exists only because dragons exist. Or perhaps some other time travel plot exists and people aren't who they say they are. Bran, maybe the Night King, I don't know. I think the spiral is more to show the creation of something. 7 things coming together to form the Night King. The new gods have 7 gods. This cover shows the Night King with a 7-pointed star in his eye. So yeah, gods, Bran, magic, dragons, undead, Game of Thrones. The last scene with Jaime was a nice touch, but Bran isn't going to make more drama than he wants. I mean, he wants a unified front right now. Jaime will likely face issues because of all the relationships that he has with individual characters, but he didn't ride north to sit in a cage again. Maybe at first, but I don't think that drama will last long. Just like all the drama. I think that now, we're close to the end. Overall, that's all I really wanted to discuss. There's a few little things that I think are pretty straightforward that don't need to be in this video. But if you think that I left something out, please put it in the comments below. And with that, thank you so much for watching. I've set up the Patreon once again. If you like this channel and want to show your support, please consider becoming a Patreon today. Thank you so much. Much love.